Now we're in the fifth parak, the 10th halacha. This is something that is classic sugya, Rabbi Bar-Hayim sugya. What is it? Ein afiyat lechem aponim doha et Shabbat. Baking the showbread does not override the Shabbos or Yontif for that matter. So if you know that Shabbos was going to be, Yontif is going to be Friday, you have to bake the bread before Yontif on Thursday, right? So we know when Yontif is going to fall out. You would have said, well, I know it's not on Shabbos. Shabbos is when I have to bring out the bread. They eat last week's bread on Shabbos. That's when they, as part of the service in the temple on Shabbos, that's when they bring out new bread. Hava amino, what's the hava amino? We just read chavite kohen gadol are made when? That's a mincha. Okay? They prepare a meal offering, which is baked, with oil and everything. It's on behalf of the kohen gadol. What days of the year? Every single day of the year. The kohen gadol has to offer this meal offering. And a korban itself involves many malachos, right? How many malachos do you do if you're just making a korban tamid? Well, there's the shchita, and there's the hafshata, and there's the haktara, right? 3 malachos right there. And you have to light the menorah even on Shabbos. So in the Beis HaMikdash, they did malachos on Shabbos that were required because those are the mitzvahs of the day. And all the Musafin, Temidin and Musafin. Kohen Gadol violates Yom Kippur many times. He bathes on Yom Kippur. He does shchita. He burns things on Yom Kippur, lights candles on Yom Kippur.
Bathing is
not bathing. It's going to the mikveh. But that's Yom Kippur. You're not supposed to bathe. But yes, kol chayavei tevilos, tovlim b'Yom Kippur. Right? That's the Mishneh halacha. If you were mechuyev a tevila, you would even do it on Yom Kippur.
Hold on, but someone who does tevila on Yom Kippur, but he's sore, let's say.
Yeah.
It's not. He's chayav karet.
No lashes.
Right.
It's not a chiyuv karis. Just saying, Kohen Gadol, maybe he goes to mikveh too many times. No, he doesn't. But Chazal said he has to change his clothes many times. Technically speaking, they could have arranged it that he has less dunks. He changes his clothes less, so he would have less dunks.
But each one is for the Shem mitzvah.
Yes, each one is the same mitzvah. I'm just saying the Kohen Gadol does. You can't go to the mikveh 5 times in Yom Kippur. If you're a mechuyev tevila,
I can't go once.
you go once. Mechuyev tevila goes once, and the Kohen Gadol goes 5 times. And if you had to, I'm just saying the Kohen Gadol does a lot of things in Yom Kippur that anybody else would do it. It'd be like, that's a little bit, questionable what's going on here.
If you're a Kabbalistic, you can go a couple of times.
Okay, good, but that's against halacha. So I don't know. Baruch Hashem, I know men who own mikvahs, and they don't dunk on Yom Kippur. Okay, yeah, we hold now that you're not mechuyev tevila. We'll go on as an interesting one. Hilchot Nida there that even if you say that there is no tevila bismana mitzvah, okay, that you still dunk on Shabbos and Yontif. Okay, there's no reason why women should never go to a mikvah on Shabbos, and there's Kabbalistic reasons for that too. Okay, back to this. So you would have thought that what could you bake on Shabbos? Lechem aponim. Bake the lechem aponim. The Kohanim in charge bake the lechem aponim on Shabbos in order to put it on the table that day. Kamash balon, the baking of the lechem aponim does not override Shabbos, and therefore every week the lechem aponim was baked on Friday in anticipation of tomorrow, of Shabbos. And when you have Yontif on Friday, so you have to bake, how often is Shavuos on Friday? Often enough, about 2 out of every 7 years, according to our calendar. So Shavuos is on a Friday. It's the most common day, I think, for Shavuos to fall out on a Friday, if I'm not mistaken. A little bit more than 2 out of 7 years. So you have to bake the bread beforehand. So he says, Ela b'erev Shabbos ofinothan, v'orchinothan l'machar. Normally they bake it on Erev Shabbos, and it's arranged on Shabbos. How about this? Let's say you have a 2-day Rosh Hashanah, because even in Jerusalem, Rosh Hashanah is 2 days long, of course, right? Even in temple times, they're observing Rosh Hashanah as 2 days. So they knew Rosh Hashanah was going to be on Thursday. How did they know that? Well, the 29th of Elul is a Wednesday. That means the next day is going to be, 2 days are going to be Rosh Hashanah, Thursday, Friday, Rosh Hashanah. So they have to arrange the lechem aponim that Shabbos. So they'll bake the lechem aponim on Wednesday, the 29th of Elul. That's what the Rambam says. Ofinothan miyom revi'i. So they're baked on Wednesday. What do they do with the bread until that point? They save it. Okay, just like it'll last on the... Now, what's the kasha? Someone ask a kasha. Come on. What's the kasha? What the Rambam just said. Come on, you're a Talmud. If you hold
it won't go bad. It's a miracle.
No. I'm not talking about that.
Why don't they?
Or I say this better. Isn't the whole? Aren't we trying to say that? I don't know. I thought there was a whole lot of to do about this. That maybe Rosh Hashanah should be observed this one day. And did so? What's going on here? Did they actually observe Rosh Hashanah as 2 days back in temple times? In Jerusalem, in the temple?
In the temple, right?
No, I
Can't
didn't
be.
think.
So how often is that? So this thing that we've discussed before, technically speaking, the Mishnah says that when the 29th of Elul rolled around that Wednesday, they knew it was going to be. Here's the actual facts. When the night fell, people were keeping Rosh Hashanah misafik, because it could very well be that the moon has appeared. They're witnesses. And even though witnesses might not show up tonight, the Sanhedrin is waiting for them, they could show up tomorrow morning, even tomorrow afternoon. They finally make it. And even though everybody's been treating today like Rosh Hashanah, they're not doing malacha, and they're saying Happy New Year. They're eating their apples and their honey, because that's the mitzvah, and they're sounding the shofar. In the Beis HaMikdash, where the Sanhedrin is sitting, because they're adjacent to the Beis HaMikdash, they still haven't offered the Korban Musaf yet. They haven't declared it Rosh Hashanah. And if things go correctly, already last night they have witnesses. By the morning, they're announcing everybody, today's officially Rosh Hashanah, crack out the shofaros. We're going to bring Korban Musaf today. It's Rosh Hashanah. And by Thursday night, Yontif is over, and Friday is a regular day. Friday is now the second day of Tishrei. So wait a minute, they already baked the lechem upon on Wednesday. Why did they do this? Because it could have been that no witnesses show up. And even though everybody's treating today, Thursday, like Rosh Hashanah since Wednesday night, no witnesses show up, they're going to default to Friday being actual Rosh Hashanah, and that's when they're going to bring the Korban Musaf for Rosh Chodesh and for Yom HaZikaron. So in that eventuality, which, by the way, the Gemara says in many places, was actually quite rare. The Sanhedrin had already worked it out months in advance and also had intimidation tactics to make sure that Elul was 29 days long. Chazal always wanted that the Adar before Nisan. Why do I say that way? Why don't I just say Adar? Because sometimes there's two Adars. So it's either the Adar before Nisan. Every year there's an Adar before Nisan. And Elul should be 29 days long. It wasn't perfect. It was a rare event where, for whatever reason, they couldn't work this out beforehand. Remember, they have ways to do this. So that Elul ended up being a 30-day affair. Okay, but that was rare. They're saying they didn't avoid. But there were cases where Elul ended up being 30 days long, and they observed that 30th day as Rosh Hashanah in vain. They didn't do malacha, and it happened to have been a Thursday. How often did that happen? Not that often, but it was a contingency. They knew, because Rosh Hashanah falls out on Thursday every so often, or could be on Thursday every so often, that this is talking about a contingency. Rabbi Bar-Hayim's argument is that, one, Rosh Hashanah actually being 2 days long was a rare thing, because the Sanhedrin was working it out. Yes, it often could have been, but they made sure not to. And when the set calendar was promulgated, they basically eliminated this eventuality. They knew, because it's a set calendar, there's no more any sveikot. The day that's the first day of Tishrei is always the day after the 29th of Elul. And the raya for this is that when normally we have a so-called 2-day Rosh Chodesh, what are the 2 days of Rosh Chodesh? The first day is really the 30th of the outgoing month, the extra day of the outgoing month. And the second day of Rosh Chodesh is the first day of the incoming month. Yet, everybody was observing 2-day Rosh Hashanah today. What are they doing? They're observing day 1 and day 2 of Tishrei, not day 30 and day 1. They're observing day 1 and day 2. Okay, so that's a raya, among others, that once the calendar was promulgated in the 3rd century, the Jews in Eretz Yisrael had no more of this safek. Okay, so that's what it's talking about over here. So they baked the lechem upon him. It doesn't say anywhere, I think, that if they baked the lechem upon on Wednesday for Shabbos, and it turns out that only Thursday was Rosh Hashanah, right? That they threw it out or anything like that. Maybe they baked fresh on Friday, Remember, it's always miskadesh. The lechem upon is only miskadesh when it's actually brought into service. So it could be they took this bread. It wasn't mikudesh before they brought it to the temple. They baked it outside or whatever it was, and they realized, oh, Rosh Hashanah ended up being one day, so maybe they baked new bread on Friday, or maybe they had no need. Maybe there's no hitter in that. I don't know. For all these questions, we'll just ask the Sanhedrin. They'll decide this. It could very well be. Here's the funny thing: a future Sanhedrin could make a rule that Rosh Hashanah is always 2 days because that's what we're used to. I can imagine Rabbi Bar-Hayim sitting with the Sanhedrin saying, now that we're finally a Sanhedrin, we'll do away with this 1 day Rosh Hashanah thing, and we'll also just make a proclamation, everybody eat your rice and beans on Passover.
No, they would just go back to using AD. What's the issue?
Either way, no, but they won't have some sort of mechanism to have UMusafin. Or maybe they'll use some other calendar system. He'll want to just make it clear to everybody, 1 day Rosh Hashanah no matter what. And they could very well decide, you know what, we're in the majority. The precedent of not eating rice, cooked rice and Passover is such a good one, we're actually going to make it a gezerah. They could do that.
They probably will.
There's a Ashkenazi who joked about making it asur for everybody.
Yes, that could happen. Yeah. Ben Nuri?
That's actually chametz.
Yeah, they could decide that. We look forward to Sanhedrin. Just saying, don't think that kulas are like Talmudic law will be brought back. Everybody knows what the Talmud says. So Torah says, go back to the way things were in the Talmud. Go, do like the Vilna Gaon. But for all you know, a future Sanhedrin could overturn that.
They probably will.
I don't know. So we'll see.
Actually,
I don't know what they probably would. They haven't. They're not there. It hasn't happened.
Been brought down in the Mishnah, in the Gemara, is always case based on precedent, or precedent based on cases.
Or Mishneh.
It's like they don't really change.
Medrash halacha involves midos shator nidreshes bahem.
Yeah, they tried to.
No, midos shator nidreshes bahem. That is something we don't do anymore. Poskim don't use midos shator and nidreshes bahem. That's what the Sanhedrin does. So watch out for those.
Don't they say?
Well,
don't they say it's Torah halacha Moshe Sinai? Most of those.
A lot of things are halacha Moshe Sinai. A lot of things are up to the Sanhedrin to decide. The midos we receive, but how you apply them. The midos are rules. The application of those rules and when you use them in drushes, that's the sages do those.
Yeah, but I can't make my own kal v'chomer. Or the Sanhedrin can't make.
The Sanhedrin makes kal v'chomers and drushes all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they used to do. That's what the Sanhedrin does. Yeah, all those. That's what the Sanhedrin is meant to do. Nope, it's not. Isn't that funny?
Speaking of Gzera Shava, and that's according to the Rashbam, which there are other Mefarshim Archolek on that.
We saw before, Rav Kook imagined or foresaw a future Sanhedrin, the drushes that they would use to eliminate animal sacrifice. Okay? Rav Kook said eventually a Sanhedrin will find a drusha, an illusion that the only sacrifices left are menachos and minat someach. Nesachim, menachos, eitzim, ketores, lighting the menorah. Why? Because Rav Kook felt that ideally man should be vegetarian and not kill animals. So eventually we'd have a refined religion that Rambam himself said animal sacrifice itself is primitive and it was just an allowance. So Rav Kook imagined that eventually maybe a future Sanhedrin, before people just become vegetarians because they're leftists, like his Temidin said. Okay, fine. You don't think it will happen? I don't know. I'm just saying that's what Rav Kook proposed, that a future Sanhedrin would have drushas that could eliminate these things. Okay, you go see it. It's in Nevochei Ador. Rav Sharkey has a series of shirim about it.
Neo-Sabbatean.
I don't think Rav Kook was a Neo-Sabbatean.
No, I said that idea is Neo-Sabbatean.
I don't think that idea.
Whatever is the law in the Torah.
No. It's the Shev al Taseh. Okay, fine. Okay, so we'll disagree.
Of course.
I thought
how would a guy give a chatas?
I would have considered Rav Kook to be a messianic person, not a Sabbatean, a neo-messianic.
I didn't call him. I said
that idea. I think he would espouse. I think if he's espousing the idea, it's not a neo-Sabbatean idea. It's a neo-messianic idea.
To me, that sounds like the same thing.
Okay, good. Okay, I'll take Rav Kook for 1,000. But that's not the same joke as you.
I'll take the Torah for 2.
Ooh, ouch. Okay. You're lucky you're not in America saying these things.
I know.
I know. Yeah.
No, I did.
If you're lucky.
Here's something interesting. Why is this not Docha Shabbos? What's Sidur Kanim? Velo Sidur Kanim, velo Netilatan Docha HaShabbat. The Kanim are those hollow half tubes that are between the two Y bars or the two V bars of the Shulchan, right? That hold up the bread. You don't just stack the bread. You have these tubes in between them. So you can't take these things out or put them back in on Shabbos. Really? Why would it be forbidden to do that on Shabbos? Yeah, maybe. Okay, it's like that. You can't do it. What does it say? Ella, Erev Shabbos nichnas b'shomaton. From Erev Shabbos, there's a Kohen whose job is Erev Shabbos in the temple to go in there. This isn't necessarily voda. He takes them out. V'nosan le'orech hashulchan. He puts them along the length of the shulchan on the floor. Just put them on the floor. Was the temple floor clean? Yes, the temple floor was clean. Why? Because they cleaned up in the temple a lot. Was anybody stomping around with their shoes or dirtying the temple? No. The Kohanim were in the temple were all barefoot, right? Yes, they what's the first thing Kohanim do when they go to work at the temple? Wash their hands and feet. Okay, so the temple is supposed to have a clean floor. Oh, but they're offering sacrifices. After they do the sacrifice, they wash the floor. Okay?
Wasn't there like a miracle where everything just goes down and goes down the drain?
No, it doesn't say it's a miracle. It says actually pretty mechanical means of doing it. They had a running tap that went the length of the Azara. Just a little bit of trickle of water, and they would stop it up when they want to clean it, and they would flood the Azara, and then they'd open it up and flush it all out. Okay, which is similar to the way people wash floors here. Just push away the water with all the dirt. But the temple, they had it cleaner. Okay, no one with shoes. And like I said, the Kohanim had to wash their feet beforehand. Uve'echad b'Shabbos nichnas, and on the first day of Shabbos, that means on Sunday, umachnis is Kohanim bein chalos. That's how you put the tubes back together. So it means on Shabbos the chalos were actually stacked on top of each other, and as on Sunday, there's a Kohen's job is to actually just go in there and stick the rods in between the individual breads so that the air can aerate between them. That's how they do this.
That's not boner.
It's not boneh, okay, not necessarily boneh, but for whatever reason, this malacha, if you could call it a malacha. Remember, if it's something, what's the halacha? If you have they say like a shulchan or a menorah that has pieces, it easily comes apart. Prefab, take it apart. Is there boneh in that type of thing? In binyan bekalim, right? If you could take things apart. What? Yeah. So why did the sages say not to do this? I haven't seen the answer. Maybe I should go see it. Okay, you guys, does Makbili say why they prohibited this? Okay, so they didn't do this on Shabbos. Chazal must have known, just like you don't bake the lechem upon Shabbos, you don't do this on Shabbos. Well,
maybe he'll do it too strong and then come out easily, and then it's boner.
I don't know. I don't think it was such a difficult thing. If it was meant to come out and in, it was pretty easy. Sider lechem b'Shabbos k'mitzvotho. What did he do? He arranged the bread on Shabbos like you're supposed to. That's what Kohen did. But for whatever reason, the Kohanim on duty just left the bowls of frankincense out. It says you have to bring in. We said that there's 2 Kohanim bring in with the breads, 2 Kohanim bring out the breads, and 2 Kohanim to take the frankincense, and 2 Kohanim to bring in new frankincense. Right? So they forgot it. What do they do? Shabbat haba'ah hiktira bazichin nifsal alechem ve'eno kadosh. And then the next Shabbos they took the bazichin. They burned the bazichin this way because that's the first thing. So that's the matir of the lechem upon him to allow the Kohen to eat it. Nifsal lechem ve'eno kadosh. Then the bread becomes disqualified and it's not holy. They don't eat disqualified bread. That lechem upon him was ruined. It stays on the table all week, but because they didn't put the frankincense there on Shabbos with it, the bread will not get eaten. So the Kohanim are going to go hungry that week. Okay. Let's say they only managed to put out the bread when? On Sunday. Why did they do it on Shabbos? Were they the Kohanim misatzlim him? What happened? The lechem upon him was only placed on the table on Sunday for whatever reason. Obviously extenuating circumstances. And then they burned the frankincense on the altar after the next Shabbos. Okay, a week later, on Sunday, let's say. Halechem eno kadosh v'nifsal. Once again, the bread is not holy and it's been disqualified. Here, this time he said, was the Rambam? The first time he said nifsal halechem v'eno kadosh, and here he says halechem eno kadosh v'nifsal. What causes what? Or they're hand in hand, so it doesn't matter which one you say first. It's both. Like stay boinke echad. Val imiktira bazichim b'Shabbat nifsal halechem. Okay, but if he burned the frankincense Shabbos nifsal halechem, it is disqualified, but it still is holy. What's the nafkamina if it's holy? Eno kadosh, I guess sometimes there's no pidyon for it. There's all sorts of things, who can eat it. But disqualified means just disqualified. Okay. So we asked the question: Keitzad yaseh belechem uvazichin shesidero ton la'achar Shabbos. So what should you do with the bread and the frankincense that was put there after Shabbos? for whatever reason. They put it there on Sunday. Yaniach otan sham ala shulchan ad she'avor lehen yom haShabbat v'hin mesudarin. Let another Shabbos pass, and they're actually on the table properly. By the way, this is a Kabbalistic idea. They say a lot of things that Kabbalists say, that something is not ready until it's experienced the Shabbos. What do they say this involving? Yeah, Bris Milah. A child has to experience the Shabbos in order to be qualified for Bris Milah. Chazal didn't say such a thing. It's a Kabbalistic idea. And then they say also a moon, for example. You can't say Kiddush Levana. The whole problem with saying Kiddush Levana, within the first week is the moon hasn't experienced the Shabbos. They say other concepts like this. Yeah, experiencing a Shabbos. Here it's explicit. Okay, the lechem upon him and the bazichim have to experience a Shabbos there. If they weren't placed on Shabbos, they have to wait there for all the next Shabbos. So how long are they staying on there? So you put it on Sunday, the 1st of Cheshvan. So on the 6th of Cheshvan is Shabbos, they should stay there. And then on the 13th of Cheshvan, the second Shabbos, 12 days after they were placed, that's when you remove them. If the frankincense and the bread just stayed there, they didn't replace it after a particular Shabbos out, nothing has happened. So lechem upon him just stay there for two Shabboses, one whole Shabbos in the middle, and then the second Shabbos that's in the removed. And if they stayed there another Shabbos, it wouldn't have disqualified them. What disqualified them is that they were placed at the wrong time and then removed at the wrong time. Kind of crazy, right? You have to ask in the Beis Hamikdash, what's going on in the Beis Hamikdash that they're putting lechem upon him on the wrong day, or that they're not removing it eating on Shabbos? What's going on? And the answer is, I don't know. Maybe some Hellenist Greeks have taken over the temple and have raided the place and have not let the Kohanim do what they want to do. When did that happen? Oh, that happened before, the Jews were completely chased out.
It happened right before every single Shemitah year.
Why?
And for a period of time. Because
they ran out of bread?
Well, like in general, not just bread, all sorts of produce. They would stockpile for Shemitah, and then the Greeks figured out, hey, let's raid it right before the Shemitah, because that's when it's at its peak, and take it.
Okay. Presumably. I would imagine that when you had that whole Jason and Menelaus thing, you know what I'm talking about? Hellenist Jews who bought the Kuna Gadola. These are the events leading up to the Maccabean revolt. So it used to be the Jews ran the temple, the Orthodox Jews. And that was taken over by what we would call Hellenized Jews. Okay? Well, yes, the reformers. Here's the joke. When Yudah Maccabee showed up with his brothers, the temple was just abandoned. Why? Because at the beginning, they're fighting over the temple because the temple had prestige, treasury. That was something. So you can understand why Jews who had no interest in Judaism, or God for that matter, would still want to run the temple and have the privilege of being high priest. But once they had been in charge for a while, and now the Orthodox Jews are gone because of all the persecutions, and they're hiding in caves playing dreidel and trying to just learn some Torah, which is above the Maisa, because dreidels are, a later invention. But the Jews are basically not in Jerusalem, what we call the traditional Jews, right? And the revolt hasn't started. They haven't retaken the temple. By then, Jason and Menelaus types had no reason to be at the temple anymore. Why? Because they didn't care. They don't care about it. It's a nothing now. Now there's no territoriality enough to take it away from them. The Ba Dover Dome, it was like those reformers.
Just run the Catholic Church.
Yeah, it's like, we didn't want this anyways. Those reformers wanted a place to do their shtick at the Kotel, right? The Kotel is one of the largest, most famous Jewish synagogues, Orthodox Jewish synagogues, where the Orthodox know what they're doing. And every now and then, so you have these reformers come. They want to do their whatever it is their shtick is, right? So they gave them, here, take this section. It's all western wall of the Temple Mount. Here's a section. Go ahead. Do whatever you want there. And are they going there and doing whatever they want there? No. You know why? Because then they don't get to interfere with the Orthodox Jews doing what they're doing. This isn't the Kotel we want. What is the Kotel anyways? That was just a section of the western wall chosen by the Waqf to stick the Jews. Why not more to the north or more to the south? Why that part of the Temple Mount is called the western wall? It's not opposite the Holy of Holies. Okay, it's just one small section of a very long western wall of the Temple Mount. And why not the eastern wall or the southern wall or any other wall? So they gave them part of the western wall, and they didn't want it. Why? Because now it's not shtick anymore. So too, at the beginning, there were, and even later, there were Sadducees among the Kohanim. This is after the Maccabean revolt. There are Sadducees who must have had, or some other groups, who wanted to impose their way in the temple. We have holidays and Megillus Tinus about this, that they wanted to do things with regard to the Korban Omer and the Shtei Lechem on Shavuos. And they actually laid down the law, the Orthodox law, what we call the Orthodox law in the temple. They restored order. So things sometimes were going on. There were wars. All the Kohanim had to go out and fight or something. It says when the second temple was destroyed, the Kohanim were still trying, even though the Romans are slaughtering people around them and trying to destroy the place. There were Kohanim who were still trying to do the avoda. Like I said before, the Jew is just getting whipped over the head. Nazis are whipping him, but he's still trying to work through it. So too, there were some pretty terrible times, temple times, where they just didn't get around to doing the lechem hapanim properly. They laid it on the table on Sunday, or they didn't remove it on Shabbos. It happened once or twice. So that's why these halachas are there. This is saying they do. So we should close with the prayer that we live to see the destruction of Israel's enemies speedily and the reinstitution of the temple. And that as Hanukkah approaches, God set our hearts right so we understand what we are supposed to do. Give us the proper spirit of David HaMelech and Yudah Maccabee and the rest of them. For the who? I don't know what that is and when it is, but okay. So Shabbat Shalom, V'nitzachon. Be good. Thank you for our technical staff for helping us with our new recording system. It's they keep giving us new toys to use every single time. So thank you very much. See you next time. Be good.